Helena never went up the drive to her old childhood home without thinking how lovely it was. And now it was a very upmarket Cotswolds bed and breakfast. Fairacres was even lovelier than it had been when she was a child. The garden, which had been a bit rambly and overgrown, was much neater now. It had to have curb appeal. But the atmosphere of homely comfort was still the first and lasting impression. High-end it might be, but it was supremely welcoming. She drove round the back of the house, leaving the sweeping drive for any guests who might be arriving. She went in through the back door and found her mother in the kitchen. A cooling tray with fingers of shortbread on it stood on the table, obviously just out of the oven. "Hi, Mum. Baking again? I've chosen my moment well." Gilly laughed. "There are some broken ones you can eat." "Can't give the guests broken biscuits," said Helena, picking up 2 shards of shortbread, still warm. "Oh, these are so good. No wonder I had to move out. You'd have had to remove the doors to extract me. I'd have been so fat." Gilly moved the kettle across to the hot part of the range. "Well, it's nice to see someone eat. The last time I offered Cressida a biscuit, she looked as if I'd handed her a dog turd on a doily." Helena assessed her mother's mood. Personally, she was always up for a bitch about her sister-in-law, but her mother was generally more loyal. Gilly didn't seem to want to go on about her son's model-like wife, or waif, as Helena privately and guiltily called her. "Why did you mention her?" she said, taking another crumbling mouthful and sitting down. "She just phoned. She wants us to go to them for Sunday lunch. That's nice, isn't it?" Helena thought her mother sounded rather desperate, so she nodded in what she hoped was a neutral way. "Oh, it's been a while. We can take sandwiches in the car for afterwards." Her mother laughed. "Helena, I know she's not exactly a lavish hostess, but you never leave the house hungry." "I'm sure we'll get exactly the right amount of calories required for a light lunch, and there's always plenty of delicious kale to fill up on. But we never leave thinking that was a lovely meal, do we?" Helena had given up, trying not to let her feelings for her sister-in-law show. "Whenever I see Cressida, the sky will fall over if anyone called her Cress, with her overtoned arms and perfect fake tan. I want to tell her to put on a cardi and eat a scone. But, Mum, I have news." "Sort of." "Really, darling, shall I make tea? Did you have lunch?" "Yes, please, to tea," said Helena, anticipating her mother's excitement. "But no to lunch. I had an enormous ham and cheese sandwich on toasted sourdough, and it was delicious." When Gilly had put the kettle on, she sat down opposite Helena. "So, tell me your news." A huge, fluffy ginger cat, apparently just as keen for information, landed on Helena's lap like a fur-covered sandbag. Automatically, Helena started stroking it. "Well, I had to rescue a kitten from a very narrow space with a ladder for my landlord, a kitten about the 10th of the size of you, Ulysses." "But, darling, you're claustrophobic." Gilly moved the shortbread out of reach of cat hairs. "I know. I was sort of hoping I'd grown out of it, but it was like a grave down there, surrounded by soil. It was heaped up and could have smothered the kitten and me at any moment." Thinking back to being in that space made Helena feel shaky all over again. She broke off a bit of biscuit that was quite good enough to go into the guest bedrooms. Gilly frowned. "This is the landlord that's imminently going to make you homeless." "Yes, I've only got one landlord. I could hardly not rescue a kitten, could I?" That was so brave. This was exactly the response she was looking for. It was difficult, but Jago, the landlord, was far too big to get into the space. Gilly had pulled her chair a bit nearer to Helena's. Surely he could have found someone else. There was no time. The heap of rubble could have collapsed at any moment. It wouldn't take much to squash a kitten. "Oh, don't," said Gilly, getting up to make the tea. "Do you want a brandy or rescue remedy?" "I've already declined the offer of brandy," said Helena, "but rescue remedy might be good." Helena thought she heard her mother mutter, "Same thing, really," as she went to find the bottle. After Gilly had waved off her daughter, who was bearing a plastic box of bolognese sauce as well as quite a lot of shortbread, she went to find her phone so she could make an appointment. While she had told Helena about their lunch date with her brother and sister-in-law, she hadn't told her that Cressida had added, "We've got an exciting plan we want to share with you," when she'd issued the invitation. Gilly had an idea she knew what this plan was, and she wanted to prepare before the visit, hence the appointment with her accountant.